Welcome to the Pathways to Profitability podcast, personal tales of business success. Be inspired by the mission of nonprofit organizations, how their work makes a positive impact in their communities and advances change. Here's your host, Cheryl Mucha, CEO of CFO Your Way.
Hello, and thank you so much for joining us today. Our conversation today is with Jessica Padilla Gonzalez, the CEO of CUMAC in Paterson, New Jersey. Jessica, thank you so much for taking the time and being here with me today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited and honored to be here.
So let's just start with giving our audience a little bit about who Jessica is, and then we'll get into the nonprofit world and CUMAC itself.
Beautiful. So I think that's a deep question, right? Who Jessica is. So my name is Jessica Padilla Gonzalez. I am a proud mother of two amazing teenagers who are keeping me on my toes. And I have been married to my high school sweetheart. But I am also a person who has been deeply rooted in social justice since as far back as I can remember. And I've been in nonprofit work for over 20 years. And I went to college for nonprofit work, right? So I tell my favorite college professor, who is Dr. Chaco, that taught me my first sociology class, thank you for the blessing, but then also thank you for the curse, right? So I'm constantly aware of what's going on in and out and evaluate everything through a social justice lens because of the information and knowledge that she shared with me.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
So CUMAC, tell us a little bit about the organization and the great work that you guys do for the community.
Excellent. So I have had the honor of being the CEO at CUMAC for the last 2 years, and we are the largest anti-hunger organization that serves Paterson, New Jersey, and all of Passaic. At this point in time, we are serving over 72 individual households on an annual basis.
Wow.
But I think what attracted me the most to that organization was our origin story. So it was a Paterson's teacher 40 years ago who noticed that his students were hungry, and he took action and started packing peanut butter and jelly sandwiches for them. And then he quickly realized that they were taking half of those sandwiches home for their families. And then he got his congregation together and they started to collect food. And we went from a small pantry closet at a church to now over 28,000 square feet serving the community every day of the week.
Wow, so that's food pantry support, community support, and you know, what other services, I guess, do you provide the community?
So we have a beautiful quote in the back of our offices that say, ending hunger has nothing to do with giving people food. And we truly believe that. So not only do we operate a choice pantry where guests can come in, make appointments, they get to pick and choose the foods that they want and need and will eat. But then we also provide them with wraparound services. So we have a welcoming space, right, where we communicate with the community. We know a lot of them by name at this point.
Right.
And then they share with us any other assistance that they need. So right now, CUMAC is a designated SNAP navigator for Passaic County. So we help individuals and families apply for SNAP. And then we also have the honor of working with the Board of Social Services. So as people apply for assistance, now we're able to also help them through the final stages of getting approval. We do educational workshops, we do community outreach events, everything that you can imagine to go from I'm hungry to hopefully we can help resolve other issues that you may be facing in your household.
So people can just walk through your door and get that warm welcome and just find the support that they need and ask the questions that they have.
100%. So we're deeply rooted in a trauma-informed approach. So our staff is all trained on ACEs, which are adverse childhood experiences. And they understand that someone's situation is not who they are, right? So we try to see the individual for who they are versus the situation that they are in, or maybe the obstacles that they're facing. So we try to meet everybody with grace. One of the biggest things is we want to make sure that everybody feels seen, heard, and respected when they come through our doors. So if somebody is having a bad day, if they're upset, if they're angry, we try to train our staff on how to properly address that instead of turning people away, because we understand they may be going through something and we're the person that they may be unleashing on.
Right. Sometimes you just need someone to talk to, right?
Yeah. And we create that space, right? So we'll pull them aside. We've also expanded, and we have this really amazing space called the Collaboratory. So we have an expanded waiting area where we interact with the guests. We play music for them. We have coffee and conversations on the side. And then we bring in all the other nonprofits that serve the Patterson and Passaic community to kind of share their resources there as well.
Right. So it can be one-stop shop. They come to CUMAC, but they can get resources from other local non-for-profits that deal with different areas.
100%. That's the ultimate goal. So just yesterday, we had a college student from Meridian Health doing some healthy eating demos with the food that's available at our pantry. And we were using unconventional cooking tools. So he had a hot plate and he made this amazing dish with like rice and beans and lentils and all the food that we already had there. So it was pretty amazing to be able to utilize that space.
Right. You don't need a big elaborate kitchen, right?
No, at all. And then he used the food we provide.
Right. Exactly. So let's just switch gears a little bit. What challenges are you finding now in the nonprofit space? Is it funding? Is it donations? Is it staffing? Like what kind of challenges as the CEO are you finding in every day running the organization?
I think you hit all of them, right? So it's always funding, right? So it's always funding. We got to do a lot with a little, right? That's very challenging for nonprofits. So the funding right now is something that we're going back and forth. We have days where we're like, okay, we're good. And then the next day we're like, okay, we need to kind of pivot. So fundraising is always a big one for us. Donations, right? So food, there's a threat to USDA foods and funding in that area. So now we're trying to pivot and figure out how we're going to be able to meet that need. Because something that also sets us apart is we don't solely rely on donations. Our organization intentionally purchases food. So we know that everybody who walks out gets a complete meal. Right. So we're trying to figure out our budget. Like, what do we cut? What do we need? What's a necessity? And then staffing, it's always an issue, right? So we're asking people to pour their hearts into this work. And sometimes we're not able to pay the best, right? So one of the things I did when I first started was I elevated our starting pay to $20 an hour, right? So we can give people a living wage and then continually increase them. But it's all the three things you mentioned.
Right. And it's a passion. Like the right person needs to fill that position, and they have to have it in their heart to be giving and supportive and patient and all those things.
Yeah. And it's also, we have to pay the people who were pouring their hearts and soul into this a living wage, right? So I have this conversation with a lot of the people who work with me or when I led my other organization. So one of the things that I try to do is, if I can't give you the salary that you need right now, I can give you the professional development to make sure that when you leave CUMAC, you're ready to elevate yourself, because we're going to pour into that skill building and professional development for you.
Yeah. There's other forms, right, of compensation, right? Not the necessary paycheck, but other add-ons that make it. But I mean, it's the work that you do. I mean, I commend you. It's a beautiful thing, and like I said, it takes a special kind of person to do that kind of work. I say the same thing about doctors and nurses and law enforcement. Like you have to be a certain kind of person in your heart, right?
Yeah.
To be able to do that kind of work. Yeah,
you have to have tons of empathy and then know how to balance it, right? Because sometimes it can be overwhelming when you see the stats on hunger, and any nonprofit is really created to like not exist forever. So it's great that we've been around for 40 years, but nonprofits were only created to kind of address emergency food. So this is a 40+ year emergency, right? We got to do something. Right. There's still hungry people, food insecure households who don't have access to healthy and nutritious foods, right? So, and it's only increasing.
Right. It's discouraging and frustrating.
Yeah, especially when you're doing the work, right? So it's like we constantly pivoting, we're constantly meeting the need. Last year, we had the highest number of guests that we've ever served. And this year, we're on trend to see the same thing.
Can you pinpoint like why that, like what changed I guess, in society that made it, like, I would think during COVID, maybe it was higher, right? I hate to
Yeah.
keep referring back to COVID because I want to put it in our past, but you would think that there would have been a huge spike during COVID because people were out of work and people, et cetera, et cetera. So what made it spike last year? Do you have any insight into that?
Yeah, so I started in 2023, which is known as the start of the hunger cliff. So during COVID, there was a lot of subsidies to help people. Your SNAP applications, which is like your food assistance programs, people were automatically being renewed. So they had the resources, right, to kind of buy food and pay for it. But when I started in March of 2023, all of those programs went away. So all the COVID assistance that people were receiving, and we had an increase, I think, of 30 to 40% in March.
Oh, wow.
Yes. And then that layered with the increasing rents. So we know we had a huge increase in housing expenses, and then just inflation overall, and then people finding jobs that were able to meet that inflation. So that's what we kind of equated to. Everything went up at that same time. And it still hasn't leveled out.
Right, which equates to a greater need. Simple.
Yes.
It's simple math, right?
100%. And then you have people making choices between, like, do I pay my rent or do I buy the groceries that I need? And then the other terrible thing is, do I buy the healthy and nutritious food or do I buy the donuts that are 12 for $2.99, right? So it's that kind of public health issue that also comes with food insecurity that we need to address.
Right. Yeah, it's the choices to be made.
Yeah.
So, and thank you for all that. It's so insightful. And, the community at large knows that this issue exists, but to hear about it from your perspective and, how you deal with it every day and, the pivots, the changes, the way the community reacts to, the world, right? I'm going to switch gears a little bit. Is there anything now, you've been in the nonprofit world for a while, that was your goal when you went to school. Is there anything that you've learned over the years that you could tell younger you, you wish younger you knew going into this field?
Oh, that's a good one. A really good one. Younger me, it may have been a mix between, girl, you need to rethink this, and really knowing that there is a lot of emotional up and downs, right? So, like, there's going to be good days, there's going to be bad days, there's going to be days when you question, like, oh my God, am I really making a dent? And then one of the things that's always carried me through is, I may not have changed the world, because that used to be my mantra, like, I'm going to change the world, this place is going to be amazing when I leave it. Is if I could change one person's world, I'm making a difference. Like, that's kind of the reminder that I carry with myself. And for my younger self, it was like, prepare yourself, because this is going to be a ride.
Right. But, change the world. Like, that's our mantra too. But we say, change the world one small business at a time, right? So you're changing the world one family unit, one individual at a time. And the vision we always use internally at CFO Your Way is the ripple effect. So drop the pebble in the body of water and just watch that ripple grow.
Yes.
And although you may not see it and realize it in the day-to-day grind, right? It's happening.
Yeah. That's the whole basis of the trauma-informed community building model, right? So if we teach people what trauma looks like, how it affects your brain and your upbringing, the way that you react in the world or interact in the world, our goal is to make sure that our staff knows it, so then they could turn around and break those cycles, and then we could bring that back to the community, right? So you create the welcoming space when they walk out and they interact with somebody else. Hopefully they'll, share that same welcoming environment with somebody they run into or bump into. And
there's the ripple, right?
Yeah.
It's not necessarily coming from within, the CUMAC doors, right? But you're spreading that knowledge and that comfort, I'll say, out into the world.
Yeah, over and over again.
Yep. So kudos to you for doing the work that you do.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
So just before we wrap up, just tell the audience a little bit where they can find information about CUMAC, what the website is.
Beautiful. So if you want more information on how to volunteer, run a food drive, come and have a meeting with us, check out our space, you can visit our website at www.cumac.org.
Perfect. Well, Jessica, thank you so much. Before we wrap up, is there anything else you want to share with our audience? Anything going on, an event?
Yeah, so we'll actually have our 40th anniversary gala coming up this year. It's a big one for us. We're going to do the fancy event, and it'll be Thursday, September 18th. So you could check out our website for more tickets and stuff like that. It'll be fun.
My wedding anniversary, so.
Yay! It's a great day.
Yeah, so I'm guessing that information will also be on the website. So to our audience, check it out, participate, support the organization. It's really doing great things within the community. So Jessica, thank you so much for being here with me today.
Thank you so much for having me and allowing me to think about my younger self.
There's a song, Dear Younger Me. You got to listen to it. Find it. It makes me cry every time I listen to it. So check it out.
I will. Thank you.
And to our audience, thank you so much for tuning in. Support CUMAC in any way you can. Check out their website. It's really a great organization. As far as Pathways to Profitability and the podcast here, all of our episodes are at the website you see on the screen. Feel free to peruse and listen in. And just thank you so much for supporting not only myself and all of our guests. Have a wonderful day.
That's it for today's episode of Pathways to Profitability. Remember to ask yourself, where can I pay my success forward today?